Good evening, everyone. This is Nitha Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 844, joined by a really special guest. Her name is Jamie Council. She's a really talented sports journalist, reporter out of NBC Washington, and she covers a lot of sports, and she's one of the best out there, really inspiring. And I just want to say thank you, Jamie, for joining the show today. How are you and your family doing?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. We're doing good. I live with my dog. He's doing great. He's laying right down there. So, great weather. So no complaints on my end.
Yeah, I got a dog also. She's a golden doodle, but unfortunately, I'm in Florida right now. She's in Jersey, so but I'm here for vacation. But I want to ask you though, your childhood growing up. When did you get interested in being involved in sports and covering sports? But not only you cover sports, but you played back in the day. And when did you get interested in playing sports?
Well, I think I started playing soccer when I was 7, and then that's all I did was play sports. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and then I played on a club soccer team. And then so I played almost every sport there was except for tennis and golf.
Oh,
But I just liked it. I was always really competitive, and I guess I was a little bit more. You would have never guessed it now, but I was really shy as a kid, and I sports was how I connected through with people, and I love the competitiveness. What you get, what you put into it is what you get out of it, and then also I was really tall, so I feel like I was good at them when I was younger. I definitely hit a wall when I was, older. My knees barely holding on, but no, I think my love for sports just came from actually playing them. I didn't dream of covering them when I was smaller. That didn't happen until the middle of college. So yeah, I started playing them when I was 7. I grew up with 3 brothers, so I feel like the competitiveness kind of came from there. And I started playing soccer, and then I started playing all other sports. And yeah, I just love everything about it, and the environment, how you connect with people. And so that was I feel like that's all I did when I was younger, was play sports.
that's amazing. Did you have any did you have any like role models growing up in the sports industry?
Yeah, I was a big Mia Hamm fan. So that was back before when the WUSA was still around. They went bankrupt, and now we have the WPSL. But Mia Hamm was the one that I would always watch, and she played for the Washington Freedom. She actually played with Abby Wambach, so
Oh
then I
wow,
became
okay.
an Abby
Yeah.
Wambach fan. So yeah, when Abby was first starting out, they were forwards together on the Washington Freedom. So whenever they go and play for played the San Jose Cyber Rays, I'd always go to San Jose and watch them there. So I actually have a soccer ball on the thing behind me that's signed by Mia Hamm. So she was my role model growing up.
Wow. Speaking of NWSL, we're really connected with the Sky Blue FC team, and it's really I love watching women's soccer. I love the way they compete. It's amazing. It's amazing league, and they should get more notice, in my opinion.
They definitely should, and that's a conversation that's being had, and yeah, that's a whole other thing. But no, they're really inspiring, and so I mean, I'm really excited for the Olympics. That's probably the thing I'm most
Yeah.
excited about for the Olympics, is to watch the U.S. women's national team.
Yeah. So for you, taking me through your process, how where with the reporting now, and what were the main things that you learned in high school and college leading up to where you're at right now?
Um, So as far as what I do now, I feel like it's not stuff in the job, but stuff outside of the job, and that's one reason why I love sports, is that, an attitude or this or that, it's going to, what you do off the field in your off time is really who you are. So I feel like it's just those things that to work going into high school and stuff. I didn't really know that I was going to do this. So I guess it's different, where you're saying like what would prepare me for
Yeah.
this job.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, what were the main things that you learned in high school and college? As a did you get actually I should say, did you get to cover sports when you were probably not in high school, but when you were in college? Did you get to cover your own teams games?
Yeah. So when I got into college, I transferred my sophomore year and I started working. I actually work for the hockey team.
Okay.
So I did all their social media articles, YouTube channel, and so I kind of went from 0 to 100 with that internship. And then I became the sports editor for the paper. So I got into covering sports to be a writer. Now I didn't ever think I would be on TV. So yeah, I had an opportunity to cover my college sports. We were Division II, so it was a smaller school, which I liked, and so I did a lot of hockey coverage, and then covered all the sports for the school as well.
Hmm. So how did you get talk to me about your NBC station opportunity? How did that come about, and what's the experience like so far working with that team?
So it's been great so far. I took over this job in last May, so mid-pandemic. So I took a sports job when there was no sports. So when you say how was the team, it was me, so it was awesome. We since then, have more people involved and stuff, but no, it was really good. It came to be. I took a couple years off of doing it just to experience things. It's a very demanding job. So I'm the sports director over here, so I'm the main anchor, and then of course I love reporting and getting involved. So people, just off my social media don't know I'm on 5 days a week, and so I kind of enjoy that part of it. Just the reporter being in the trenches type of stuff. But it's been really good. I've learned a lot, and so it's a role that I knew I wanted to take to get better myself. As well as, yeah, everybody here has been really great. And good sports in this area too.
Yeah, so some people say sports directing is easy, but it's not an easy job. So for you, take me into the process of being a sports director, and not only that, while reporting games. So how tough is it being a sports director? But it's a great experience, though.
Yeah, so I mean, it's different in every market. I've worked with, back when I was a sports reporter, some sports directors just stay in the studio and go on air and read the highlights. And so there are, your job is what you make it. So if I literally didn't want to report, I really wouldn't have to. As well as we're very unique here too, where we actually have a secondary channel, so it's called SWX. So we do live games, so that kind of adds a whole other job into it. So it's different in this market, where we do in a normal year we'll be getting back to normal, but we usually do over 100 games a year. So that way I'll get to do play-by-play, color, things like that. So yeah, it is a lot of hard work. It's different for everybody. Some people say it's easy. I'm sure I've worked for sports directors that literally wouldn't do anything except for I would give them stuff and they would stay in there and just look pretty and read the highlights. And I mean, which is hard to do as well, but I definitely go out into the field. And so anybody that says it's easy, I would say spend a day in my shoes and we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, since you started recently, when the pandemic started, and for you, what have you learned as a journalist reporter? Obviously, nothing with no sports, and people had to utilize different platforms like Zoom, and then not knowing where everybody's going to be. So, what have you learned yourself adapting to a different situation, staying working from home? Maybe I'm sure you had a lot of Zoom meetings with people that you're working with now, and but what have you learned from the past year to now with sports being back, and now you guys are back in the studio?
Well, I learned how to use Zoom. That was a big part of it, and so that's kind of helped in some ways. And then just making those relationships. That's one good thing, is that I still was able to reach out to people. And a lot of people said, well, there's no sports, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to cover. But being an athlete myself, it's like, okay, just because sports aren't happening doesn't mean that teams aren't still around, that athletes don't exist, that coaches don't exist. So I felt like I kind of had a niche in that department of still connecting with people. And I think when there was no sports, it really brought to light just the relationships that you have, that you don't really think about, the relationships that you have with your coworkers, with your teammates, with coaches, with everybody, until you don't have it. So still being able to just focus on the relationships that you have with people, which is usually focused around the sports. So not having that piece, it really brought to light just important those relationships are.
Yeah. So speaking of networking connections, really important in this industry to make as much connections as possible. So for you, how grateful are you just to be working with awesome people in your company and just making these connections and learning, getting to know these players' personalities off the field and on the field?
Yeah, so it's been really great, and once you get more into it, you realize how small of a world it really is, that you don't really notice that going in, but once you get in this, you really realize that, the sports world is kind of small. Like, people that you've talked to, I work with, and I'm like, oh, like that's so, kind of a fun connection. So it's been yeah, relationships are everything. The job is the job, and at the end of the day, I'd hope people are good people, but most people are. So yeah, the relationships are everything that you're going to take into your next job, and it also makes the job a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. So for you, Jamie, what's it like now being back in studio, reporting games finally, and getting to interview players on the court or wherever you are, and just to see fans back in the stadium? What's this a feeling? What's the feeling like as a reporter seeing that?
Well, it's nice to be able to actually do the job I was hired to do. That was kind of something where I just felt like I was in studio since the beginning of the pandemic. I was one of the few people, so I didn't meet a lot of my coworkers. So that was at least nice, where a lot of people were working from home. I was fortunate enough to be in studio, but no, it's great just seeing fans there. It's kind of weird sometimes, where I'm just like, oh, is this okay, or even like shaking people's hands. I'm like, oh, is this okay? And so it's just great to see things kind of go back to normal. I know when I was at like Mariners camp last year, because they didn't go to Arizona, they stayed in Seattle. They had the piped in crowd noises, and so like in the press box, you kind of forget that there's nobody in there until you look, and you're like, this is weird. So I feel like it's just a feeling of, relief, and there's just a lot of negative feelings of uncertainty, or just of things not how they normally would be. So like it was a tough time for everybody, including myself. So just to be able to see people play games, to see fans, and see things more back to normal, it's just a great feeling, rather than that just overhead impending of doom. I feel that was the pandemic that we we're constantly fighting.
Yeah. So I want to get to an important topic now that everyone should be talking about: women in sports. And I'm a big advocate of women in sports. And three out of the four out of the seven people that I have helping me out are females. And we're always helping females out, trying to get to their goals. And what's it like seeing yourself, Alyssa, Becky Hammon, Kim Nang, uh, Sarah Fuller, Sarah Thomas, and you go down the list. Amazing females out there, amazing women, inspiring, hardworking women, just like yourself. What's it like seeing the growth of women in sports?
Well, I think it's nice that a lot of women are getting the recognition. I mean, if you take a look at a lot of the social media, the day-to-day operations, females have always held those roles, so for them to be in the limelight is, or being recognized, it's really nice to see. But I mean, in the day-to-day job, it's something that I try not to think about, where a lot of people, want certain things to define them, or like I'm this or I'm that, and I just try to be good. I try to be a good anchor, a good reporter, and then me being female is, I try to have it take a back seat, whereas some people like try to put it front. So everybody's different, but when it comes to that, I try to put that in the back of my mind, and just have my work define me, rather than, my gender. But to see females get recognition, or even to see just how they've been treated in the past, and for people to be like, hey, like that's not okay, that's really great. Because, just for people to say the things they do, or the way it's treated, and for people to be like, well, this is just how it is, was, it was a slap in the face, for a lot of people. So just to see that changing, it's just really awesome to see, because like I said, females have, always held a part in it, whether it be the social media team, the the front office, or just different things that maybe were behind the scenes. So to kind of take that step and get the recognition is just really amazing to see, and hopefully that continues to grow.
Yeah, I'm hoping hopefully we get to see a first female head coach pretty soon in the NBA, because it's time. We've been as a team, we've been saying, Becky Hammon, please give Becky Hammon a chance, and also Teresa Witherspoon is another one. But I really want Becky Hammon to get her chance, because I think she's going to be a great head coach one day.
And that's the thing is, males fail all the time. So for you to be able to say, oh, well, a female will fail, they're going to fail or succeed on their own. So the fact that they don't have the chance to succeed on their own or fail on their own, that's the problem, is that males have the chance to succeed or fail on their own, and people just don't give females those opportunities, because males fail, but females don't even get the chance to fail or succeed, which, I want to say that they would succeed, but just to say one thing happened from like it happens on both genders. So I think it's just given the opportunity to do that, because males are coaches for females all the time. Yeah. So when you talk about that respect, it's just like, okay, so what's the difference? So it's just kind of funny taking a step back and really looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah. So I want to get back to your reporting. So how often do you obviously they tell you which segments you take, but for you, how often do you do interviews like Davion and Matt Johnson?
So I mean, it changes every week. So I am I'm in charge of the shows. So I produce the shows we do. So we have about five or six different things that we do every day. So I mean, there's some days where I'll just shoot games because we also cover games. And then there's some weeks where I'll go out and interview a lot of people. So it does change. I mean, on average, like I'll probably average talk to one person a day, but there's some days I'll talk to 3 people. Some days I'll talk to none. And it just kind of depends what's going on. And then I do have a reporter that does that. So my main job is to assign out things, anchor, and produce. And then reporting is just what I like to do. So I don't have to do that, but I like to do that, as well as it's great to connect with people. So I would say probably I average 1 interview and then shooting 1 game a day, but it just kind of depends what's going on and what's going on my plate as well.
So what advice would you give to young girls and young athletes, or anyone that are trying to reach their goals?
Stick with it. Nothing's ever gonna be perfect, that there's gonna be highs and lows. And I was talking to Brendan Davis, that plays for the local minor league affiliate with the Angels, and he's leading the league in home runs. And I just kind of asked, like, why are you successful? And he gave a great answer. It was just because, like, my mentalness, like, I work on that more than I do my game, and I'm the same person 7 days a week. And it's really the same here. Like, he strikes out, you're gonna have a bad live shot, you're gonna have a bad interview, you're going to mess up, but just knowing that you're going to get better by going through it, as well as working hard. That's something that a lot of people get into this saying, oh, I just want to have it be on TV, but they don't realize that you're writing your own stories, you're finding your own things, you're shooting your own stories, You're doing your own editing to begin. And then I mean, as you go up, it kind of divvies up. But so I think just not being afraid to fail and hard work are the two main keys.
So for you, what would you say the main thing that you like to get out of these interviews you do with players? What's the main thing that you like to get out of these interviews?
So I really like getting, like, the athlete perspective on things. I guess just that was one thing, is I hated reporters when I was being an athlete, because you think about, a lot of times people come into stories with their stories already written. Well, this is my story, and then they're just asking you questions to put cookie cutter information in, because I mean, it is easy, and there's going to be times where it is a cookie cutter story. Like, that's the long and the short of it. But when I'm doing interviews, I really like to, see like their perspective on things, or, just, I guess, just have something be more personal to them and be a representation of who they are as a person and a player, rather than just, I guess, cookie cutter answers, which I don't know. I just like to be mindful of the athletes as well as highlight them as well, where a lot of sports media is based on tearing athletes down, and I really enjoy building them up, which is, maybe PR is something I end in down the line, but that's something that I really like to do, is give an athlete perspective and build them up, and unless it is on something negative, which you have to report on as well.
We got to get you a gig on Fox Sports or Sports Center. I think we need to get you. You're such amazing, and I think we definitely need to get you a gig on ESPN or wherever, Fox Sports. I think you'll be amazing on there.
I appreciate that. If you know anybody, you have my contact information.
I had a couple. We had a couple of ESPN people and Fox Sports on the show too. So I'll try and see what I can do for you.
Well, that's why I'm here, getting better. So no, this is a great market now. That might be a couple years off, but I appreciate that.
So now we do this fun little segment on the show. It's called the Rapid Fire segment. Rapid Fire segment. You ready for this?
I guess as ready as I'll ever be.
All right. Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Kevin Hart. He cracks me up.
Favorite food?
Sushi.
So I saw your interview with David on yesterday. He said Suns in 6. I got the Suns in 5. Who do you have? How about for you? How about you?
I'd say Suns in 5.
Yeah, it's looking like it's sweet, but I think the Bucks will get one game at home, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like I don't want to do them dirty like that. So I think they'll get one game, but the Suns are just, they're just the better team.
Yeah, so where would you rank Chris Paul if he gets his ring this year?
I mean, it would be cool that he got the ring, but there's definitely guys above him. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one, and I don't want to answer because I feel like I'm going to make a lot of people mad. But obviously,
I think I should save this question after he wins the ring, maybe.
Yeah, it might feel a little premature right now, but I think the bigger, rather than just where you rank him, I think it's a true testament of just, sticking to it. You see guys switching around teams. So I think it's really cool that he finally got it with the team he was with for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for you, if you had the chance to eat, all right, who are the three, which people would you eat dinner with? Name 3 people that you would eat dinner with.
Three athletes?
Yeah, it could be with anyone.
Abby Wambach, Peyton Manning, and Joe Mauer.
Oh, wow. Okay. Why?
They just seem like they have great personalities, and then different sports. I feel like you can't go the same sports in all of them. So I guess this is rapid fire, so I don't really have time to think it through. I'm sure there's better answers, but those are just the ones off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, those are great answers, actually. So for you, what do you like the growth of Seattle sports? Obviously, Seahawks always compete, but you got the Mariners, and then you got Mariners, and hopefully they need another NBA team there, but hopefully soon. But you got Seattle Storm, Seattle Seahawks, and the Seattle Mariners. But what do you like about the growth of Seattle sports in general?
Well, I mean, they're getting the Kraken, that they'll have the NHL, and then they'll be getting, so there's talks of bringing the Supersonics back. And so it'll probably be either Seattle or Vegas. So it's just awesome to see. I lived in Seattle for 3 years. So I went to my fair share of games. So I think it's really great, especially the hockey community here is really growing. We have a lot of WHL teams, which is the highest juniors. Carey Price played for my local team here. So, I mean, they lost, they were able to, they won one game, and then Tampa struck twice.
Yeah.
But I mean, Carey Price played for the WHL here, and then there's some good teams, and then like with the Mariners. So I mean, Seattle's a great sports community, and it doesn't do good for the traffic in downtown, I will say, but it's a lot of fun, and CenturyLink is an awesome stadium to go into. I don't tell people here, but I'm more of a Colts and Vikings fan. But I don't not like the Seahawks, but usually I'll go to games when they're playing one of those two teams. But no, Seattle's a great sports city, and I feel like I've become a Mariners fan now. I think part of the reason is because I didn't really have a team growing up, and they've been so bad for so long, and it's kind of like if you get married, you don't want your significant other to have any exes before you. So with the Mariners not doing anything, I'm like, okay, I'm just starting off clean. So but no, Seattle's a super fun city for sports. I was able to attend the MLS Cup. The Sounders games are just awesome. A great soccer community in the Pacific Northwest in general. So they kind of have it all, and then hockey will be starting, and then they get an NBA team, and Seattle will be a really big hub for sports, more so than it already is.
Yeah. So speaking of Tampa Bay Lightning, what was your thoughts when they went back to back? I put the Drake song on there too. So.
I mean, it was fun to watch, and then I mean, yeah, they're just so good, and then I think it's so funny where Tampa hasn't done anything, and then Tom Brady comes to town and Tampa wins twice. The Rays get far, and then the Buccaneers. So that's cool to see. And then Spokane native Tyler Johnson, played for the Lightning. So I mean, we had Carey Price here, but that's kind of a cool local tie. So I like the Lightning. So no complaints with how that one turned out.
So what are your thoughts on the WNBA season so far, if you're watching it?
I haven't been able to watch too much of it, to be honest. But I was able to follow, with the Seattle Storm being here, and so it was fun, especially when they were in the bubble and the wubble and stuff. I with no sports, I feel like I tuned in more so to that, but I haven't been following it extremely closely.
Favorite memorable game that you covered and favorite memorable interview you've done?
So probably the most memorable interview, which it wasn't my favorite, but it's definitely the most memorable, was at Vikings, when I went to Vikings camp, and I think I was in an internship at this point. And the way it's set up is you can only talk to certain players. Some players you go through this, but then I saw Adrian Peterson was there. Usually he's surrounded by people or this, and so I was just like, well, you know what, I'm gonna shoot my shot. And I was like, hey, can I interview you? And then his public, he's like, oh, like if he will, and so he agreed. So I got to interview Adrian Peterson one-on-one, and so I just kind of shot my shot. And so it wasn't anything, memorable, or it's just very basic camp stuff. This was a couple years after he came back. I think it was a year or two before he was traded and stuff. So, so I think it was just you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Wayne Gretzky by Michael Scott. It's the true moment of that is, so that's probably the most memorable for me. But then there's been a lot of great games too.
So what's a scouting report on Jamie Council as a player?
As a player? Well, what sport?
Basketball.
Basketball? Oh gosh. Let her shoot as much as she wants. She can't shoot. I was more of a defensive player. I only played basketball for 2 years in junior high because it goes on the same time as soccer. So for basketball, I mean, I'm 5'11", so I would always be put on the good players because I was like fast and athletic. But as far as shooting, they were like, don't shoot, just give somebody else the ball. So yeah, there's not too much on that scouting report.
Yeah, so before we get to the last few things, just want to ask you, get your take real quick on this. Obviously, the Olympic is coming up soon. Hopefully, they play the games, and they've been getting a lot of positive tests now in Tokyo. But hopefully, they can play the games. But I just want to get your thoughts on Shikari Richardson. I think even though she did a bad thing, I always tell people this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to compete in the Olympics. Unfortunately, she's not going to be there now. So what do you think they obviously she owned up to it too, and do you think they should give her another chance or?
I mean, obviously, like it's just she doesn't deserve the card she's dealt. I understand when rules are rules, and this sounds terrible, but by her owning up to it, the rules were set in place. So from a bureaucratic standpoint, I totally get it. Those are the rules, and these are the Olympic rules. I mean, marijuana is legal in Washington State. And so it's different. You'll see, less and less people test for it here for jobs. I mean, my job did, but I think they got rid of that since I was hired and stuff. And so, but when you take a look at the world and the rules in general, I think that it's not fair, the card she's dealt, that she didn't really, like, she's not taking performance enhancing drugs. It's just a drug that was laid out in the rules, and those are the rules, and it's not fair to her. And I think those rules should change, but when it happened, they weren't. So I can't really say like one way or another, because I'm kind of a person where like these are the rules. You need to know the four walls and stay within them. Otherwise, they are within their power to make their decisions. Do I think it's fair? No. Do I get why they make it? And do I think it's completely ludicrous? Like, no, like I get it, but I also don't think it's fair to her, and it's not affecting, it has nothing to do with her athleticism. Like that's not that it's not going to help that. It's just the rules. And I do think that the world needs to decide where they stand on that, where it's very split here in the United States in general with marijuana specifically. And so yeah, it's just kind of a bad card that she was dealt.
Funny, all right, real quick, funniest person that you work with right now?
That I work with right now, I work with so many characters. Like that's I would say probably one of our athletic directors, Mike Edwards. He's athletic director for the Richland Bombers. I just a really funny guy. So whenever I get to talk with him, he's always great. And so yeah, I work with a lot of characters. So I could probably name off like 10 people.
Yeah, so the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach, and he's now the offensive coordinator at Tennessee State with Eddie George. And we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe and the kids stay safe. And it's so horrible out there what I'm seeing. And so we're trying to help them in a possible way. And I'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out.
Awesome. Yeah, be happy to. I know that there's a lot of terrible things, so that's awesome that somebody's doing something.
Yeah, so the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Well, they're the only reason this country's afloat. So I mean, I know that they know the worth of what they're doing. That's why they do it. They know how important it is, but don't undermine that. The general public doesn't know that. It doesn't get said enough, that thank you, and that they don't get the recognition they deserve. So I think that everybody, that you can't say it enough to remind them that they're the true heroes, especially through this whole pandemic.
Yeah, well said. And there it is. That wraps up episode 844 with the talented sports reporter, journalist Jamie Council from NBC Washington. Go follow her on all social media formats. She's one of the best out there. She's hardworking, inspiring, and I just want to say thank you again, Jamie, for joining the show. It's truly an honor. Keep up the amazing work. We would like to have you back as a returning guest so you can meet the full team eventually. But keep up the great work, and thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it, and great chatting with you.
Yeah, anytime.